Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Antonio from Still Point Ayurveda in Philadelphia with another talk, part 3, about digestion. So let's talk about digestion. So the past 2 segments have consisted of me discussing the output, the process of transformation, and now we're going to talk about input. And then we'll re-summarize everything in that order. So input is a very important component in Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, it's called Ahara Matra, which is the intake of appropriate food portions. And that's also defined according to a person's individualized constitutional metabolic functioning. So based on their digestion, based on your specific digestion and its functionality, that will determine what the appropriate portion is for you. There isn't a one-size-fits-all in Ayurveda. No way, nowhere across the board. There are certain understanding principles that are applied, and there are some very hard rules in Ayurveda, but then also these have to be individualized to each person, because each person is slightly different. And so it's important to consider a lot of different factors. So when you're seeing an Ayurvedic doctor or seeing an Ayurvedic professional, we have more of a comprehensive approach to fully integrating the Ayurvedic principles in a protocol that's designed especially for you. That's how this works. We don't have necessarily a standardized system like the BMI index or things like that, or the generic food pyramid that exists out there, which is not really proper. We don't have the same rules as far as like everyone should drink 8 glasses of water a day. That's not correct. That's not proper. That's not how that works. And so it's important to really understand that in Ayurveda we look at people based on individualized processes and go from there and see where you're at within the context of your life, within the context of your health. And so in looking at the understanding of health and digestion is a very important component to this. Understanding that what you eat, what you put in, will determine what the quality of what comes out consists of. So you are what you eat, but also you are what you digest. And so in Ayurveda, we want to look at what is your digestion like. So what is the input like? What are you putting into your body and what is getting digested? There are so many different pieces that create this whole being, this whole integrated being with so many different systems. We don't just target one system in Ayurveda, we target the whole body. So when this whole COVID pandemic started, everyone's jumping on the bandwagon for wanting to optimize their immune functioning, and that's the focus, the immune system. Well, you're neglecting to see that the whole body creates and co-creates and contributes towards the immune functioning. There's no quick fix. There's no one-size-fits-all. There's no way to jump from A to Z. You just don't do that. It takes time to cultivate all the tissues, all the systems, all the organs. And when you have a mind that's more in balance, in a state of more homeostasis and in a more calmer state, you make clearer, better decisions. And when you're not making the best decisions that are supporting your body, then your body's going to tell you through symptoms. That's one of the reasons why the body produces symptoms, is to indicate to you something is not in alignment. And so then it's up to you to decide how big do you want that symptom to get before you actually start to do something about it. When I have people come in with stage 4 cancer and all these other types of extreme conditions, they didn't necessarily just fall into that pathology. It's a slow accrual, in some cases over time. And in Ayurveda, we look at where on the timeline of health or ill health are you, and how far along are you that we have to work harder to go back to more homeostasis for you. And no matter what, across the board, when you're working with an Ayurvedic professional, they will very specifically, very meticulously, and over time, it's not a one-size-fits-all, it's not a quick fix, it's not coming in, you have a consult and everything is all set in stone and done. It takes time to get to know you. It takes time to really understand you. And this is how you cultivate the relationship with yourself. It really takes time to really understand your own relationship with yourself. And as certain things are pointed out to you, you're like, oh, you'll have some aha moments. And so we look at food, no matter what condition, whether you're in a healthy condition or an ill health condition, we look at what is going into the person's body at this point in time and what has contributed over time to this person's health or ill health. So there are three general categories in Matravat, which is the general sense of proper intake, and how we determine that is through a set of what's called lakshanas, or characteristics. And this reference point is coming out of Charaka Vimanasthana, chapter 2, lines 6 to 7, where Charaka lists the basic characteristics defined for each of the categories. Matravat is proper, amatravat is excess, is insufficient, and ati matravat is excess. And so for matravat, for proper indications of proper intake, you would not feel any sense of pressure in the abdominal cavity. You don't feel any sort of exertion, any kind of like stretching or pain in the sides, because obviously that would mean that you've eaten too much and things are just kind of pushing out of their normal region of the body, and you're stretching the tissue inappropriately. That's not a good sign of proper digestion. That's not a good sign of proper portions. There's also a sense of satiation and or a sense of nourishment in your tissues. Like the whole body will have a sense of vitality and energization and feel good, a sense of lightness. You will also have a natural sense of like your hunger and thirst being satisfied. You'll just know like, okay, I'm full now, and okay, I've had enough to drink right now. And there's a natural organic process with that. And you notice that. And that's when you've eaten right, because then you have understood your body and what it's needing in that particular moment in time, and you're not able to feel obstructed or any kind of like heaviness or any kind of lethargy or any kind of like sluggishness. And then, another way you can tell if you've eaten proper portions is that when you can stand or walk or talk or laugh and you feel comfortable, you feel a sense of like ease in this process. And, overall, understanding when your body's taken in the proper portions and things like that, the appropriate amount, you feel a sense of good physical strength. All of this is indication for proper health of your digestive system. Insufficient or amatravat in Ayurveda, you have a reduction of strength. Your complexion changes in color. The growth and nourishment of the tissue is affected negatively. There's an absence of sense of satisfaction and satiation. So when you're not eating enough, you have the sense of depletion, the sense of like low energy. There's also a damage to the lifespan, because if your body is requiring a certain amount of nutrient intake and you're not providing it over the long term, this will cause a lot of deficiency, a lot of malabsorption, a lot of issues with just health. And then overall, it would contribute towards vata disorders of many types, vata governing the basic nervous system and functions like that. So insufficient, not having enough nourishment. And then the opposite, which is ati matravat, which is the excess of nourishment, when you're overeating, then all the three doshas from their healthy state will become aggravated. And so that will show up in each person's constitutional design very specifically to them. And this is what we look at within Ayurveda. We measure according to certain key signs and characteristics of what's optimal, and then certain key signs of what looks like it can appear as abnormalities. And we gauge that and connect that to how your health and vitality are affected. And your mindset, because your mind is also playing a role here. And also what your mind is doing, that's going to determine how you're eating. So if you're eating anxiously or angrily or just in a depressed state, or eating on the go, or you're eating too much or too little, or any kind of mind frame that you're in, you're eating according to that sense of paradigm, then that's going to influence also what the food happens to happen in your body, how it happens to happen in your body, and what you're eating. Depending on what your state of mind is, manas, you will also be attracted to that food that's going to more likely increase that. So if you're angry, you might add more hot sauce to your food. If you're more depressed, you might eat more like cheesecake or sweet, savory, heavy foods. If you're anxious, you're probably not going to eat at all. Some people, when they're anxious, depending on constitution, they're not going to eat. They're going to miss food. They're going to be just on the go, just going to snack or just like nibble here and there, if they do at all. And then other constitutional designs will eat a lot out of anxiety and just keep eating and eating and eating and shoveling and shoveling and shoveling, and that will go into like a different kind of pathology in the body, and you'll see it later on. So it's really important to gauge where your mind is at. It's important to hold space and understand the level of emotion that you're carrying and how to process this accordingly. It's not to say that if you are feeling a little sad and you want to have something just to kind of nourish you or nurture you in that moment, sure. Just be careful of the snowball effect and how that will accumulate, and then over a sudden you're developing other issues, and all because of just how your mind started to eat whatever it was eating at any given point in time. Ayurveda is a very precise pathway, and it's very involved in consciousness. To join the Ayurvedic pathway, to really follow that level of consciousness, means you're increasing awareness and consciousness. You can't help but do so, because you are the center of your life. You are the center of your universe. And without you, the world will go on, life will go on, but it's much more fun to be part of it, knowing that you are alive and that you should be able to indulge to a degree, and you deserve to, because you're a human. And that's the ultimate goal, is to feel a sense of contentment or happiness. And, one of the ways that we can do that is by enjoying and connecting one-to-one or in group settings, just universally. Food and music are two very earthy gifts that we get to experience as humans that allow us to connect us to one another. It's very common in most cultures that food is the center, and someone that's lovingly preparing the food and the energy that's in the environment that you're digesting the food in. And sometimes there's music in the background. It's not coincidental that it's in our DNA. It's in our nature. It's who we are as a people, and this is how we connect no matter what culture we are. Every culture has an amazing contribution of food, and this is how we connect. And so, just to basically wrap this up, in Ayurveda, we have the input of matra, or ahara matra, which is what we're taking in as food and portions, and as listed earlier, the indications of either improper or proper or excess or deficient. We have the transformation process, which is Agni itself, which was discussed last week about the different types of Agnis, the Sama Agni, Vishama Agni, Mandagni, Tikshna Agni, and the signs and indications of these types of states. And then the first week was the output, the Jirnahara Lakshanas, which are the indications of when you've eaten properly and what your body seems like in a healthier state after the fact. Ayurveda has listed so many beautiful lists of indications that really allow us to understand cause and effect. Karya Karana principle. I've said this over and over again in so many of my talks, and I love it. Karya Karana, cause and effect. And Ayurveda teaches us this relationship, because Ayurveda is the science of life, and it teaches us how to live along with life, as part of life. So, if you have any questions, if you would like to work with me, I definitely have a COVID discounted special on packages. And I look forward to hearing from you and to being of service. And this is what I love. This is my passion. This is what brings me joy every day, is sharing Ayurveda and noticing how even one seed being planted in someone's consciousness eventually starts to take root at some point. And it makes me happy to know that this is how I'm contributing to the world and well-being, especially during these trying times and challenging times where Ayurveda will shine. It will continue to shine. It has always been there. It's been there for thousands of years through all different types of periods of time where we've had many ups and downs in the world and pandemics and non-pandemics. Ayurveda has remained consistent and is evolving and growing with the times. It's not an ancient medicine. It is a current medicine with principles that are very old and very substantiated and amazing. And so I'd love to share all this with you. I will include my link in the comment section below. I'm also teaching 2 Ayurvedic yoga classes a week, Tuesdays and Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry, it's the earliest that I could do it, and the best time that I could do it any week at this point in time. So I look forward to hearing from you, and until next week, have an amazing, juicy, loving, passionate, joyful day. Namaste.